from doubter to believer.
Welcome everybody to the LFC Couch. This is a pre-Tottenham Hotspur podcast, but before we go talking about Spurs coming to Anfield, we do have to introduce the lads for this podcast, where we have below me, Peter the Coach Kofinas.
Hello.
And then to my immediate left on screen, stage left, stage right. What is it, George? You're the actor. Tell us, how does it work?
It always works as if you're lying down on the stage. If you imagine the stage, your head is at the, like, if your feet were at the bottom towards the audience. So stage left would be the actor's left.
Okay, actor's left. So technically, yes, stage left is my left if I'm facing the crowd stage left. So Pete's below and George stage left. Pete, I have to say, you're looking more like Allison every day, mate.
I'm just trying to be safe.
It's the hair, it's the slick back and everything. All right, so before we get into the pre-Tottenham chat, we do have to mention something very important. Our dear, nicest friend, best bloke in the world, fearless leader, overlord, Nishvi, has decided to step down from the LFC Couch, and he does so with a heavy heart and heavy regret. But he leaves the LFC Couch in the capable hands of questionably myself, Peter, and George, and a few of the other blokes as well, who will still be coming along. Questionable? What's questionable?
Nothing at all. I think look, talking about Nish now. It's, to be fair, it's quite sad that we're losing the main man, the one who started us all, the founder, and everything else. I know George actually was with Nish about second or third episode into the LFC Couch, and myself was quite shortly after. I think I was episode 16 or somewhere there. But it is sad. It is sad to know that there's a huge little Indian man shaped hole gone in the couch. Go, George.
I was going to say, I think I was on. He says that I was his first guest. I'm not sure if I was the first guest or the second, but I'm on one of the first two shows, and I think I remember I was in Melbourne. I would have been doing Open Slather at the time, and I think I was in a cafe. Doing it, because if I don't know if that show's available still, if it's anywhere, but if you were to listen to it, I occasionally look around because there's a kid crying and there's people staring. So I remember that. I remember exactly where I was. Yeah. So that's kind of the humble beginnings that the podcast has kind of gone through under the fearless leader. I call him El Capitano, Imperator, as they would call him in Roman times. He was Nish has started everything. He's been very, very very giving to all of us as well. He's provided literally the couch for us to sit on. It's going to be tough not having the couch essentially there. We've got to kind of build our own couch, I would say, or try and set up our own couch because Nish he's got his own couches to worry about.
It's very, very nicely put there, George. And
I'm in quarantine as well. I'm feeling a bit dramatic.
How's it working out for you, by the way, just quickly?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm here in a 5-star hotel. They put you in the room and they throw away the key. So I've not left the room. I can't even leave the room. I've got no key to get back in. But I got a nice view of Sydney. You can kind of see there a little bit. Like, I'm pretty high up. So it could be worse. And you know what? Credit to how Australia's been doing this. They call me every day. People get upset and annoyed about having to be in quarantine. But this is why we get to go to bars and pubs and have a normal Christmas and New Year's, because this country took this thing seriously and they're taking it really seriously. I'm getting a call from whether it's police, not police, but like people who are, trying to secure the hotel, from nurses, and they're constantly asking me, how are you doing? Anything we can do to help you? So that's every day. I couldn't be more, more of a glowing review of it. It's not perfect, but it ensures the safety of the country. So it's been a big success, I think. and it's been fine.
100%. Nice to see you are in Sydney, nice and safe after your treks on the, I should say, behind the silver screen or in front of the camera, or however, whatever term is, I'm not too sure. But I think we need to also move on and also give a bit of sad news, because last night, breaking news around about this time it was, that we found out that old Liverpool manager Gerard Houllier sadly passed away at the age of 73. Everyone remembers Gerard Houllier fondly, got us our treble back in the 2001 season with the FA Cup, the Worthington Cup at the time, and also the Europa League, or the, what's it called, UEFA Cup at the time, whatever it was called, how many iterations it's had. But he also brought us some fantastic players and blood through some of the youngsters that we've come to love as Liverpool greats, and some players have come back and played under him. And I think it is very sad that we've lost one of the Liverpool greats. Peter, I mean, you've probably
I think it's
seen players, yeah?
No, I was just saying, I think it's fitting how we actually got RB Leipzig in the Champions League, right? Because wasn't he part of the core group who helped kind of like start that club, that Red Bull kind of the franchise? Wasn't he part of all that?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he actually scouted Sadio Mane and Naby Keita, so that would have been for RB Salzburg. So whether he was definitely involved with the Red Bull franchise at some point, whether it was exclusively Salzburg, or whether it was actually more as overseeing all of the clubs. He's indirectly, because Naby Keita ends up. I don't know if he's scouted from Salzburg to Leipzig, or if he goes straight to Leipzig. But in any regard, Gerard Houllier has something to do with his eventual status as a Leipzig player. So yeah, there is that serendipity, Pete. You're right.
And Mane actually made a nice post about Houllier and his guidance towards his career, and actually helping him go to Liverpool.
It was Sadio Mane was playing for Metz, and they got relegated. Yeah, and Gerard Houllier says you got to pick this kid up. I've seen him on French television. I've seen him. Yeah, so that's the background behind that.
But going back to Gerard Houllier, he's the first coach I remember as a Liverpool fan watching on TV. Because of the times, so I would have been just young enough here to remember him lifting trophies and everything else. I remember him on the sidelines. He's the kind of the first manager that I kind of grew fond of, if that makes sense, because he was the first manager I remember on the Liverpool sidelines. And okay, I also think he had a huge part to play in actually changing the culture. Wasn't he the first European or the first non-UK manager of the club as well?
It would have to be. If you do the recon, I mean, you kind of go Shankly, and then you go through and you see Paisley, and you can't. Yeah, it's Souness.
Well, he kind of broke the mold, right? And since then we've had opened up the door for Rafa Benitez, Jurgen Klopp, and the others. So. I don't know. For me, it is sad because everything. I remember listening to a podcast with him on it not too long ago. Funnily enough, on I'll actually see if I can find it. I actually put it into our group chat a while ago, and I remember listening to him talk about football. And he not only does he understand the game, he's unbelievable. He's got his knowledge is just all pure. He's a pure human being. Sorry, George, what were you saying?
I was just gesturing, trying our new gesture system.
It works.
I didn't mean for you to stop. What I was going to say, same with Pete. I probably start supporting Liverpool right when he's assistant. He's firstly an assistant to
Roy Evans.
Yeah. And then he takes over, and that's whether I even remember that assistant year. I'm not old enough to kind of understand what's going on. I just remember. My uncle coming in when he saw I was obsessed with Liverpool, and he would sing "Who Let the Reds Out?" Houllier, and it was that was when the Baha men were going strong for about 2001, if I'm not mistaken.
One hit wonder.
The one-hit wonder, the Baha men. So it's probably the first, like Pete, it's the first manager I was aware of. It was Gerard Houllier, and the news hit me in that sort of way as well. It's the first manager I understood, the first manager I heard speak, It's the first manager I was supporting, and I was heartbroken. I mean, pardon the serendipity to it, literally, because Gerard Houllier himself had heart problems in that season. I remember we were steaming ahead in the league, and my grandfather famously in my family, or infamously, said to me, Liverpool were first after 9 or 10 games. This is 2002, I think it is. 2001, 2002 season, when we come second. I'm not mistaken, we go ahead in the league very, very, like, we're off to a flyer. And people are going, this is Liverpool's year. And my grandfather said it to me, like, they can't lose from now. And famously, I think we come second. I'm not sure what we come, but it coincided with, I think, Gerard Houllier having those issues. He had to step away from the side. And I was upset with that. I couldn't understand, because it was Phil Thompson, who I got to know a lot then. As a young kid, having to, kind of realign myself to Phil Thompson, who was great. I loved him as well. He was the assistant manager of Liverpool at the time. I just got so many fond memories. And then when Houllier returned, it was this awesome moment. It was just, that was, the first manager I got really attached to. And like Pete said, he's responsible for, I remember Sammy Hoopier being the captain of Liverpool. And I remember the first day of the season, first game of the season, where Stevie Gerrard wears the captain's armband. And at the time, you're never to know Steven Gerrard's going to be who he's going to be. You love him. But he gets the captain's armband. I remember part of me thinking, oh, you're taking it off Hoopier? Is that the right decision? And so many he signs Nicky Barmby from Everton. There's so many big moments that are synonymous with my childhood. So it's a really sad day. He's only 73. And if I'm not mistaken, it was complications from an operation. Not to dwell too much on, the cause of death or anything like that, but it's very sad. It wasn't expected, so it makes it even sadder.
Yeah, I was going to go and say that we can always be forever grateful that he was the person to unleash Stevie G to the world. Like, he was the one who just let him off his chain and said, "Go on then." So forever, because Stevie G is my idol. Stevie G is everything to me. That's where, again, my connection to Houllier is like, I just thank you for doing this, because maybe someone else wouldn't have. You don't know.
I was waiting for you to make that connection. November 29, 1998, whatever it was, Houllier put Gerrard on as a last-minute sub for Vegan Hegem, and the rest is history, as they say. So
I still remember Stevie G's expressions on the sideline, how he's looking around from side to side, and he rubs his nose, and he's still looking from side. Like, he's just get him on the pitch, So
teenager, mate. Teenage jitters at the time. It's what it was. George makes a bit of alterations at the moment. Here we go. Yeah. Off camera. You got to do it, mate. You got to do it. Oh, it's all good. Yeah, I do. I want to gloss over it, because arguably, look, I said it in podcasts I've done beforehand, even in my satisfactions. When we played Leicester, I thought this was dangerous. I thought Leicester might do us. We ended up smacking them, 4-0 or something? We play Wolves, we ended up beating them as well. I forget what the score again, 3-0 or something, like a couple of clean sheets, whatever it was. And I thought, it's not too bad. Then we go away to Fulham, and for some reason I thought to myself, this is going to be one of those games where we are actually going to maybe find ourselves a little bit short, not in the sense that it's going to be one of those games where we're going to absolutely fall to bits, but I thought it might be basically exactly what happened against Fulham. And I'm just thinking, has Klopp and the Liverpool squad maybe thought, let's just kick back, let's chill for a second, let's just try and break this team down, because Fulham didn't look like they were letting up. And I think he said something like, we could have lost it in 30 minutes and we could have won it in the last 60 minutes. And ultimately we salvaged the point from I still personally think anytime a player puts their arm up to protect their face or whatever away from the ball is a bit of a 50-50 call for a handball, but by the letter of the law, it's a handball. So we got that. That's how we got back into the team. But George, what did you make of the Fulham result there? Do you think we maybe underperformed, or do you think this could be maybe the players that we have at the moment not trying to push them too much?
It's interesting that you say that you were feeling the performance coming. I think you said something like that, or you said maybe Leicester could have been that thing.
Yep.
But Fulham, you were having similar thoughts. I have to admit, I didn't have any of those thoughts. I actually thought this would be a walk in the park. I know Fulham. Actually, I watched their previous couple of games, because there's a really funny meme about Scott Parker doing Have you seen the one where I can't remember the UK band, but it's like one of those like London rapping bands where they kind of just talk. It's like, I went outside and I decided to do it, and they've got like the dum, dum, dum,
yeah. It's like the streets.
background.
It's like the streets.
The streets. That's what it's exactly them. It's the streets. They have him, and it's after one of his great games. So I actually watched the game to see what he was talking about, and Fulham were impressive, despite how impressive they were, and despite Jurgen Klopp doing his normal, routine before the game, saying we've got to be careful of this team. I just didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't. I didn't suspect that it could happen, and Fulham were great. They took me by surprise, and it was relentless. And I put it in our group chat, and I think it's a bit of a cop-out. We said we're going to be a little bit more explosive. The couch 2.0, we're going to be a bit more explosive with what we say. A load of people on Twitter saying, how dare you compare this to Aston Villa? That was 7-2. Why are you trying to make this, like a big drama? It was like Aston Villa. We were getting steamrolled by a team that's not as good as us, and it was relentless, and we weren't awake, and we were trying to win the game in second gear. Now, whether we lose 1-0, 7-2, draw 1-1, the performance was the same. The thing with Aston Villa was they didn't deserve to score 7 goals. Maybe they did. It just never happens in football. That was like a FIFA score. There was deflections. There was mistakes. In that Fulham game, 4 deflections, an own goal, if I'm not mistaken, Adrian making a mistake. We're talking, and long-range strikes. Like, it's not like they tapped the ball into a net or anything like that. It was every goal went in. So with Fulham, the only difference was there wasn't those lucky things. The performance for me looked exactly the same. It was, and I talked to Peter on the phone about this. I don't know if it was... because I have a feeling, and Pete will know this more than anyone, when you're preparing for a game, I would assume you prepare a certain way. So what they're doing in training is what they're doing on the pitch. And I have a feeling, because it doesn't make sense when Klopp says wake up on the pitch, I have a feeling they might prepare the game so they can manage. It felt like they said, let's see if we can win this game like this. Yeah. And it didn't work because Fulham came out.
That's what I'm thinking as well. Yeah.
So I think what happened there is, I think Klopp after the match, if you remember what he said, they didn't play the way they would normally play. There were a lot more direct balls in behind, and they were playing for second balls off Loftus-Cheek. I think that's spot on. I think what basically Klopp has said there was we prepared for a different Fulham performance, and then they threw that at us. And then what they were doing as well was when we had the ball in our back third, they were pressing every pass. And that's why he got the shits with Matip and saying Matip was obviously passing, it was too slow and the passes weren't crisp enough and they weren't quick enough and the ball speed from end to end, from side to side wasn't at the speed he was happy with, is because they were shocked by getting pressed when all the video analysis work and training during the week says there's no pressing involved. That's okay, they'll sit off. And then when they get the ball, they're going to do this. And all of a sudden, Matip's getting pressed, and Matip's passing game already is a little bit shaky as it is. And, with him getting pressed, we should probably see why Klopp was like a volcano on the sidelines during that first 20, 30 minutes. And I think you're right, George. I think what they faced was a shock to the system, but I still don't think that's a way to let us get off the hook, because we're a better team than that anyway. Like, our ball movement was terrible. I didn't care what game plan they had. When we had the ball, our decisions were slow. Our actions were terrible. Our midfield was non-existent, bar Curtis Jones. A 19-year-old was dragging the game by the nuts, and no one else was doing anything in midfield. I think Henderson played unbelievable at centre-back. At midfield, I thought he was, again, not bashing Henderson. I think Jenny was the same. I think they're both non-existent. But at the same time, the front three were a little bit flat as well.
Yeah, I think overall, performance was abysmal, man, for me anyway.
Yeah, well, that's the thing I was kind of coming to. It surprises me that Klopp kind of does that. He bangs his chest and says, wake up. Now, I understand the wake up. But like we were saying before, I think just to try and explain the situation, it's this Liverpool team, it's not like them to do that Aston Villa performance and to do this performance. I think there's management going on. I think the team needs to manage its fitness, kind of like a video game, like if you play your championship manager, like Players have certain fitness levels. They're either green, orange, dark orange, or red. And you need to I'm not this player's not doing sprints. They're not doing shuttles this game. I need to contain it, or I'm going to win this game after 60. Rafa Benitez famously used to do that. He used to, pardon my French, fuck around for 60 minutes. And then he'd go, I know we can win this game. I've got Stevie G. I've got Fernando Torres. We're going to win the game in 25 minutes. We're going to conserve, So part of it is kind of that. And this Liverpool team has learnt how to play in third gear. But like Pete said, that's a great point. They've probably learnt how to do this thing against the bus parkers. And when Fulham started parking the bus, Liverpool started loving life. And it's something that Pete and I have been afraid of, is the bus parkers. But Leeds United come at us that first game. They hit us hard. They didn't bus park. Aston Villa come at us. It's really strange that it's like they all got together in a conference, because how you beat Liverpool is with the bus parking deep, defense.
I think
and they're all not doing it.
Yeah.
Well, they smell blood now, right? Don't they? When you look at, a Matip who's going to get injured if he sneezes potentially, then you've got Trent's been out for a while. His fitness is being managed. There was Kelleher in goals for a little bit. Now Alisson's back. The midfield's always changing because, there's injuries coming left, right and centre. I think if I was an opposition manager, I would be the same. I think I smell blood. There's inconsistency within the squad. There's, people getting minutes when they shouldn't be getting minutes. He's already tired. You can see the way he's running. Mane looks run off his fucking legs. Mane looks finished. And if I was them, because I'm only playing one game a week. I'm not playing Champions League. I'm thinking we're going to go at them as hard as we can. And that's what we get.
That's pretty much what I was getting at when it comes to that performance, because as George put it, quite well, when teams come at us, we sort of we don't know what to do. But when they park the bus, it's like, yep, we've got all the possession in the world. We'll move the ball around. We'll try and dink a pass in behind, try and play something 1-2s or whatever the case may call for. And that sort of leads me into the Tottenham game, because we know how Tottenham have played in recent weeks or months, shall we say, with Mourinho now, because they've been parking buses and hitting teams on counterattacks, and they can very much do it against us. And if it comes to playing against a Tottenham team that is sitting back and not coming at us as we've seen in the past, because when teams come at us, we sort of do them. A couple of seasons ago, we did them 2-0, a couple of first half goals from Mane. They came at us, we hit them back quickly with high pressing and things like that as well. And I don't see that happening from Tottenham right now, because whilst they're sitting in first place on goal difference ahead of us, they'll look at this game coming up and look at it as a massive opportunity to snag not only a win at Anfield for the first time in a very long time, but also ruin our unbeaten Premier League home record, which I have said has worried me in the last few weeks. As I said, I thought it might come at Leicester after the Van Dijk injury. I thought it might come at Wolves the other week. But since then, it's been okay. But there are signs that tells me that one day one team is going to really come at us, and they are really going to let us have it.
Look, I think if anyone can do it, it's Mourinho the prick. He is known just to be that kind of guy who does those kind of things. It's whether they're going to go ahead and challenge for the title or not, it is in him to do something like this to stop a record. But I got a feeling that Klopp, hopefully, anyway, this is what I will do anyway. You look at Mourinho's team, you're thinking they're going to sit off, they want the spaces in behind, and they want to counter. Let them. If they want the draw, give them a draw. That's how I will be playing this game. I'll be looking at them as probably my potential main threat at the moment for the title. And at the end of the day, if they're not gaining points on you for the match, you're not taking points with them, but they're not gaining anything on you. And yeah, okay, Chelsea may win and it gets close again with Chelsea. I don't think Chelsea will compete for the rest of the year. But I'll be looking at that. I'll be trying to look at as I've got half a squad. If we have ball possession for most of the match, okay, they might hit us on the counter. We've got Matip with back spasm. We don't know if he's playing. We don't know. Hopefully Trent can play the 90 minutes. We don't know. With the midfield, what's it going to look like? We don't know. So if I was Klopp, if Mourinho wants a draw, I'd give him the draw. I'd play for the draw as well.
It's interesting you say that because, firstly, before I go on to exactly what you're saying, I agree with that. The first thing is that this season has suited Mourinho absolutely to the floor. I'm stealing a point off the Anfield Wrap. I think I've heard. I may have read a tweet about Neil Atkinson saying something which is so spot on. I've said the same thing in my own head, but I'll credit that that research. It suits him because he doesn't have an audience to have to perform for. He has sat there and played. I'm trying to remember one of the games that they just sit back. It was Arsenal. Arsenal as well was just sitting there. There were nothing, and Tottenham have 3 attacks and score 2 or 3 attacks.
Classic counter-attacking football that was, man. Absolutely got him a couple of chances and bang, that was it.
Yeah, it's FIFA. It's again going back to the video game. It's how like dickheads play on FIFA. It's I'm not playing, and then I'm just going to break and score twice on 2 attempts, and it suits him to the ground. This current scenario suits him. Also, firstly, it's having no fans and playing his shitty brand of football suits him. Not to mention he's also got good footballers, so the football can look quite flashy at times because Ndombele has turned into bloody Maradona, rest his soul. So that's one and a half things. But the second thing that's absolutely suited him, me and Pete talked about this as well, is the coronavirus pandemic couldn't have come for a worse manager than Jurgen Klopp. Now, if you go back to the beginning of time of his Liverpool career, he would never have changed his ethos at all. It's not like he would ever go like Jurgen Klopp. Would you play differently? He would say no. However, keeping in mind the coronavirus pandemic, there's probably a version of Jurgen Klopp that is thinking in his mind, "Fuck, I wish I played a less intense brand of football." It's kind of like it's a lottery. Like they have handed out the lottery tickets and Mourinho's looked at his and said, I play shitty defensive football with no work rate. Of course there's work rate in what he does, but nothing compared to what the Jurgen Klopp side needs to do. But in the pandemic, Jurgen Klopp's side needing to do what they do has caused it's not the only reason for the injuries. There's been unluckiness and misfortune as well. But if you're any one of those managers during a pandemic, which manager you would prefer to be? Even Jurgen Klopp right now is looking at Mourinho going, fuck, I wish I just sat my players back and didn't run as much. Like, that would be a dream. So this pandemic has come at the complete correct time for Mourinho. He doesn't have fans on his back because there's none in the stadium. And his team doesn't need to run, which suits the pandemic. Like, if Jurgen Klopp was running rings around him during a normal season, he'd get found out by lots of teams. But right now, everyone's, like, gassed. So his team has got no injuries, and they can spring on you whenever they want. It's suited him to the ground. The final thing I just want to say with what Pete was saying, if they want to come for a draw, let them. I think Mourinho's smart enough to have seen what happens when teams come at Liverpool. He's going to have that ace up his sleeve. So I think Klopp, and this is the thing, he's only got 3 days to prepare. Has he been preparing for Mourinho the whole week and didn't even bother with Fulham? I think that's what I'm suspecting has happened. But what I think he's got to have up his sleeve is he's got to have 2 game plans. He's got to tell the team, look, I know it's hard to go through 7 days of training and only do, and we're focusing on one idea, but we're going to try and focus on 2. We're going to do 2 lots of drills, essentially. We're going to try and play 2 different ways. If they come at us, we've got to do our Manchester City counterattack, which they've forgotten how to do because teams don't come at us anymore, and they've only recently started doing it. We've also got to have the bus parker, which is what Liverpool have been doing week in, week out for the last year. So he's got to be able to change because against Fulham and Aston Villa, we didn't know how to change. So he's got to have both of those up his sleeve.
Yeah, I think for our sake, in any case, with the players that are going to be playing, depending on who plays where, because as Pete alluded to, Matip, if he sneezes, he might further injure his back. He's a doubt because he had a bit of a back issue, which is why Henderson started, or rather continued at centre-back for Fulham. So if we do see Henderson start again against a Mourinho Tottenham Hotspur, then they may think otherwise. They might want to say, well, Henderson's a good player, he's a good hustler of the ball, but is he really going to be that the Van Dijk, in the back, which I don't think he will, because Fabinho, whilst he'll still be in there, I think Fabinho's got his own things to worry about. And when you've got the likes of Son trying to run in, and the same way they scored goals against Arsenal, and let's not forget they obliterated Manchester United 6-1 as well. Even though United went up, they just went again and again and again, and it just kept catching them, and that's what they're doing, because maybe Mourinho's found out that, hey, I don't have the best players that I probably want to, but this is the football I know how to play, and this team is going to play this football. Because you think Pochettino Spurs, they'd be going up against you. A Mourinho team, you just know he's going to sit there, he's going to play 10 behind the ball with the goalkeeper, and he's just going to try and lump something forward. And if we go forward, we push on into their own half, we lose the ball, we get pressed. It could be that if we move into their half, they start pressing us. And if we lose the ball and there's no one really in the back, one ball from Kane over to Son, or from Son to Kane or Ndombele, or whatever the case is, and they could be through on goal. And no matter if you've got Alisson in there, there's always a chance for them to score. And Son, some people claim that he's not a world-class player. Maybe he doesn't fit the mold, but man, the finishing that he gives, the goals that he scores, and the way that he plays is trademarks of a world class quality player. And that bloke scares me more than Harry Kane right now.
Well, Son walks into our team. He's that good.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Eyes closed, walk.
100%.
But I think if Matip doesn't play, I think you'll see Nat Phillips play because of the aerial presence he has, that he can match Harry Kane's kind of aerial presence. So I think this is where Nat Phillips will be useful if Matip isn't playing. Fabinho, again, but that doesn't provide us much pace at the back with Son running behind Kane. Therefore, I think the key to this match will be stopping the supply to Kane, because ideally it always goes to Kane, and Kane flicks it off to Lo Celso, or it's to Son, or it's to I can't remember the Dutch winger's name now, but it's always...
Well, they got Bergwijn, they've also got Højbjerg, Sissoko as well, Doherty as well, who they got from Wolves as a right wing back.
It's Kane. Kane's there for me, in other words. We've got to stop the supply to Kane. And I think if Nat Phillips has his physical, in-your-face kind of game where he does man-mark quite well, I think that can be useful. I just hope Fabinho is switched on for everything else that may come off into second and third ball. I think this is where someone like Henderson is key to the match as a holding midfielder, because he has to be close to wherever the ball's going. So if the ball's heading to Kane, he needs to be close enough to support that second ball if there is one, so he can get the scraps. The defensive midfielder in this match, I think, is the key to winning or losing the match. Sadly enough, our midfield will be the same as the one that's been the past few games. It's going to be Gini, Curtis Jones and Henderson. I can't see that changing because I feel like we've been let down by a few players. Naby Keita is one I've been saying for a couple of years now. He just lets us down week after week. And you can say it's not his fault, but whose fault is it then? I think mentally, he's got some issues, and I think this is all psychological with him. I think these barriers he just can't break, for his body to continuously break down, considering he never plays. So I think this is a psychological thing. But front three, again, Mane looking tired. We haven't got Jota to help, purely because Klopp decides to play him in a match that didn't matter. So he's gone for 13 games. Firmino, okay, we're not going to play a league because we want to win the game. There's no one else. The front three is going to be the front three, as tired as they look. So it is. We do have. Look, believe it or not, I believe we're the underdog heading into this match.
Yeah, I'd say that. I'd say yes, because Mourinho's coming to town, and even though we've got 64 games undefeated, or 65, whatever it is right now, I've lost count, after 3 years, Mourinho coming to town means business. And if we had Van Dijk, if we had Gomez at centre-back, I would be more than comfortable in saying, like, yeah, we'll snag a win out of this. But it's that lack of centre-backs, the lack of pace at turn as well with our centre-backs, even though we've got Robertson and Trent, who I don't even know if they can just play as fullbacks. I feel like they just go forward and play as wingers non-stop. I don't know if it calls for them to actually, maybe sit inside our own half at some points maybe, but then where's the supply going to come through? How are we going to try and score goals if they're going to be blocking us with 5 at the back, 4 in the midfield, and playing a lone striker who's, sitting on the heels of Phillips, for example, or maybe a Fabinho,
There's one thing that I've noticed with the team, increasingly more so now. It's sometimes those heat maps. It's better to see them in the actual. Got the average positions. It's kind of better to see the heat map, as more confusing as it is, and you have to look at every player individually. One thing you notice is that it's a great point about our fullbacks play as pseudo wingers. But one thing I've noticed recently, I think it must be with an eye to conserve, but it's a positional player preference thing anyway. If you imagine, I don't know what your screens look like, that's Robertson, that's Trent. Trent's delivery comes from here, and Robertson's delivery comes from here. He can do this one, but it's lopsided. And so I think if you're saying that thing of like we have to conserve those fullbacks, I think there's evidence of it. I think it's like that scale of this is Robbo and that's Trent, that can kind of be shifted. Yeah. I think Robbo's placement up higher the pitch makes him our left wing. He's our left winger. It's simple as that. And Mane pushes in. So what we've seen is that to guard against that, we've seen whoever that left midfielder is, the centre midfielder usually comes in and covers him at left back. So yeah, either. I'm not sure the answer is to tell Robbo not to go up as high, because he's sometimes our highest player and he's pressing. But it's probably more on that midfielder to cover in for him. And at the same time, as to what you were saying, Nick, is to reinforce to Trent, really do control the game from deeper. We don't need you as far up. So that might be a good way to help out the defence.
Yeah, because I'm thinking if they're going to try and come at us, if our wingers or our wing backs are so far up the pitch, we lose the ball, there's a turnover, and they sprint, and you see Davies or Son or Lo Celso or whoever just running at. If there's a 2-on-2 break or a 3-on-2 break, we can get easily done for pace, and that's what worries me.
I think. Yeah. I'll tell you what worries me the most, more than anything else. It's lack of creativity from midfield, and it has been for a while for me. I think now against Fulham, I don't know why we decided to do this against Fulham when we're individually better in every single position, but we get the ball and we kick it as far as we can. It's just like, what is that? They're sitting on the edge of the 18-yard box. Why are you kicking it there? Like, I know Henderson was guilty of it a lot on the weekend. I think Henderson, every time he got it, he'd just look up, and it wasn't even like a driven pass that could get him behind. It was like a lofted chip that would just fall into the centre-backs of Fulham. And this weekend, I don't think we can do that, because that's how they can start their counter-attack, by giving a hopeless ball into them. They just pick it up and off they go again. I really don't want to see that, and I'm sick of seeing that, to be honest with you. We've seen it at Champions League as well, midweek. I hate the fact that teams are sitting off us and we're playing a long ball. Like, that's, I don't know. That's something that really irks me. That's one of my pet hates. If they're sitting off, there's spaces for you to play. So don't kick it into the area where they're going to be, camping. There's obviously the space for you to play. If they're back 4 or 5 or back down there and the opposite end of the pitch, there's rooms for you to play somewhere else. Wait, be patient, keep the ball a little bit, move it around, then maybe go for that one in behind. But the fact that we do 1-2 passes and it goes whooshka straight into the centre back, it's like, well, it wasn't on. You're making Mane do a 40-metre sprint that he can't get to a ball. He can't afford to do 20, 40-metre sprints anymore. He's out of gas. So that's the part that really is starting to annoy me. But again, I would love to see Minamino starting midfield again. I thought he was quite good.
Actually, that's who I was going to actually mention just now, if it wasn't going to be for the midfield and the attackers going forward. As you mentioned, no Jota. So if we are going to look for someone off the bench, if he's not going to start, then Minamino would be that player, because I don't see anyone else potentially coming off the bench. Divock Origi, for me, again, cult status and all that shit, and the 1-0 against Everton and the Champions League and all that good stuff, thank you very much. But ultimately, when we really need him to grind out a result, to really dig deep and pull something out, not to say he hasn't pulled out shit before. I mean, he basically pulled it out of his ass alongside Trent against Barcelona and for Everton. But in slogs like this, when it can be very dull and very boring, I don't think he's as effective. I think Minamino is going to be the player. We are going to need someone creative alongside maybe Curtis Jones, if Wijnaldum is going to be that holding midfielder. If it's not going to be Henderson and Wijnaldum and Jones, you might see him come off the bench. I don't see him changing the starting front three, though. It is going to be Mane, Firmino, and Salah. And Salah, for his faults, I think he's scored more goals than Cristiano Ronaldo now. It was 85 goals or something in the Premier League in a heap of less games than. But all the same, are we going to see Mo Salah as his best as we've seen him against Spurs in recent years? Probably not, because the way this team is going to play Spurs-wise is not going to be the team that Salah likes to play against.
It's interesting. We want to. Again, I mentioned this Couch 2.0. We want to be, edgy, and it's funny because the thing that I want to say that is edgy is usually to be edgy is to kind of. To be critical of a player, and it's funny that me not being critical of a player is my version of edgy, and I'm happy to die on this hill. I don't mind Divock Origi, and it's music to Pete's ears, like it's with his brand new red beats on. I don't mind him, and I don't enjoy the talk about the anti-Origi talk, and this is the reason. We do need to act like champions. I get that. Just been a Liverpool supporter way too long, and we have had Nabil El Zar on the bench. We've had Florent Cinema Pongol on the bench. We've had Andre Voronin on the bench. I can't remember the last time we had an option off the bench that has done as much for us as what Divock Origi has. So is he a starting striker for us? No. But Gerard Houllier had these players, Ji-Sung Park and, Makeda for one season, but he had Nani, who didn't start for him a lot. He came in after
Ferguson.
Ronaldo.
Yeah, not Houllier, Ferguson.
Sorry. I meant to say Ferguson. Sorry, I'm thinking about poor Gerard. Sir Alex Ferguson, rather. He had these players on his bench, and you wonder what player can you leave on the bench, pay them money every week, and they don't argue that they don't play. We're always kind of like, we want the perfect player to sit on the bench and never play. Liverpool's not that team. Chelsea are, Man City are. Unless we're happy to part ways with 150k. FSG, as great as they have been for us, they're not doing that. I'm being a realist here. We are not getting another player on that bench. The only player we can get is a Ryan Brewster. So Ryan Brewster could have been in our bench right now. But I would have taken Origi over Brewster this season. And you know what? It showed, because Brewster's team's coming last. I don't know what he would have done for us. But Divock Origi has got size, he's got pace, and he finishes. Now, he there's that funny video of them saying he's lazy and blah, blah, blah. And he does, he can be a bit selective with his runs. But he's a substitute striker. He's not even third choice, fourth choice. He's fifth choice. How much better can we do?
You had to make impacts.
Yeah.
Not come on and make it worse.
He's had moments where he has come off the bench and impacted. I'm not talking about Everton and Barcelona. They're special cases on their own. He has against Bournemouth. I think he started that game and he scored. We ended up losing that game, I think, but he ended up scoring from outside. Similar how Salah scored in the Champions League last season against Red Bull Salzburg, just the stupidest of angles. He has done it against Dortmund as well. We know he can grind it out. He can play. I just don't see him, based on the way he plays, coming on for 20-odd minutes if he's not getting much service, or if he's meant to be playing as a striker and he's drifting out wide, whether that's tactics from Klopp, whether that's the other players maybe restricting his movement, trying to move inside, or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm not the coaching expert.
Put it this way. If we get in trouble and we need to throw him in, like we're in trouble right now with injuries, mark my words, Origi's going to help us. That's all I'm going to say. And if a player can help you, then he's better than he deserves a bit of respect. I feel like he's going to help us.
Now that he's said that, Origi's going to score the winner now. Watch.
Well, then I'll probably say, we've had trouble all season and a bit more with fitness issues. Yeah, he continues to overplay some players. If Origi was as good as everyone else thinks he is, he'd be playing him as well and resting Mane, for example. But he doesn't trust him enough.
True.
That's a fair point.
He doesn't trust him enough. That's it.
It's true. It's true, but he still does trust him because he's playing. And that's the thing. Does he trust him as a second choice, as a third choice? No, but he's not that. That's why I'm saying he's fine. He's a fifth choice striker. He's probably the greatest fifth choice striker of all time. Like, who has been fifth choice and has been as good as him? Like, who the fuck? Who would sit there and not play all year and then come on against Barcelona and score 2 goals? He is fifth choice. Say it again.
Last season, he was our second choice. Who was our second choice? If it wasn't for the front three, who was next? It was Origi.
Yeah, but he hardly played. Like, that's how. Like, Shaqiri was sometimes preferred to him, and what I mean by second choice as well is that Jurgen Klopp's first choice is he plays his front three. His second choice is he plays his front three in a different formation. His third choice is he plays his front three and they don't run. So it's like Origi's so far down the pecking order. He's willing to change the whole team before he brings him on. You know what I mean? Like,
that's bold, man. I didn't think about it. First choice is this formation. Second choice is another formation. Third choice is this. It's like all the way down before he says, Divock fucking get on.
The main point being, it takes so much shit to go wrong before Jurgen Klopp goes, I'm going to rely on this guy.
Man.
That supports your point. But that's what I'm saying. He's so far down the pecking order. Why should we complain? Like, he's fine. He's fine as a shit player for us. It's fine.
I mean, all right, Pete, David and Gog or Divock Origi, which one?
Origi.
And Gog against United, so...
I can't believe we had David and Gog in our squad once upon a time.
Thanks for reminding me, because it proves my point even more.
Times. In any case, we do have Spurs coming along now. We had a decent discussion on the squad, potentially, what it could be. Let's just quickly mention the Mourinho team first up now, because no one really expected them to be anywhere. Everyone thought they're going to be in a bit of a shambles. They had their whole fiasco last season, and now they've actually surprised a few people, and a lot of people are still questioning whether Tottenham can really challenge for the league, and it is still yet to be seen how far they can go because of the way they play. But as they say, so long as you don't concede goals, you're not going to lose. But at the same time, you need to be scoring them, and they are. And they've scored a quite substantial few more than us. Granted, they've played some different opposition to us.
We're the highest scorers in the league, are we not?
I think we've conceded more than them, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, sorry. I thought you meant pure goal scorers.
Sorry, goal difference, sorry,
they're better than us, goal difference. No, 100%.
So are we looking at our challenges for the title, or do we still see someone like a Chelsea maybe creeping up, or even a Leicester or a Southampton, because they're doing well as well?
The very quick thing I was going to say was Tottenham Hotspur, absolutely no. They are not a challenger for the title. 0. Jose Mourinho is a challenger for the title, and that's the difference. This is Jose Mourinho doing this. It's kind of a cop-out to say that, because the club manager, same thing. But if this were like Chelsea, for example, Chelsea, yes. Lampard's Chelsea, I don't think so. And Pete said this a few times. Klopp's very smart to play on that, because they do have they have the most promising squad. It's just a pity they've got a manager who doesn't know what to do with it. They've got pure talent in that squad. Mourinho's the opposite. He does have the talent, but Jose Mourinho has won the league before. He's won it twice. He's won it 3 times. He knows what to do. Tottenham, no. Mourinho absolutely can win the title, and he is absolutely a favourite for it.
And they've always had those things as well, where Mourinho wherever he's finished the season beforehand, he always finishes a season higher or something like that, or I don't know, however that sort of term goes. So there is maybe concern, but we're only 12, 13 rounds in. We've still got 3/4 of a season to go. Apart from that, I mean, we do have Champions League as well. We've been drawn with RB Leipzig, and that's happening in February and March next year. Touch wood, hopefully some players come back. Jota maybe coming back. Maybe Thiago might come back just in time for a run or two in the last few games in May. Who the hell knows what's happening with Thiago? Because let's just remind ourselves that we've got Gomez out, Van Dijk out, who I think they're doing their rehab right now. Tsimikas is another one. We signed a left back to cover Robertson, so he doesn't play so much, and Robertson is playing probably more than what he was expected to, because Tsimikas has gone out with injuries. Thiago, as we just mentioned, is a question mark. Shaqiri, does he have another abdominal strain? Is he doing too many crunches that he's, bruised one of his 24 abs or something? Milner as well, he had a hammy problem, so he was maybe still a couple more weeks away. Chamberlain as well, he's been back in training. We don't know what's happening with Alex as well. He was there doing the whole opening for the AXA training center and everything, and we have no idea what the situation is with him at the moment. Maybe he's in contention for the bench. You're saying, Pete?
I'm saying Chamberlain's back, it's great, but I don't think he'd add much right now to what we need. I don't think... for me, Chamberlain may be part of... Curtis Jones is better than him.
If he runs, though, as you said, he's the direct runner in the midfield. If Curtis Jones can be the creative player, if Chamberlain can run off him and maybe run at the defence, maybe opening up some gaps, because we haven't seen it from many other midfielders, because we don't have those sort of midfielders to play, do you think he may give us something at least to maybe drag a couple of defenders out, maybe opening space for the front three? Because we know how good he can be when he's on form, but he hasn't played for, 3-4 months?
I guarantee he plays front three before he plays midfield because of Jota's injury.
And that doesn't work, man.
And that's such a good call. See, but you see what I mean? See how far down the pecking order Origi is? Chamberlain goes left wing before Origi starts.
He still managed to tee it uphill. How does he do that?
He's so far down. That's a great call. It's a great call.
That's what I think will happen.
But very quickly, on Chamberlain, I think that there is something that I think the squad planned for it with the introduction of Thiago, and the squad has kept going despite Thiago's absence. What I mean by that is that there is a Wijnaldum-ish thing happening, but more so it's this Steven Gerrard Coutinho-shaped youngster we've got in Curtis Jones that has promoted this roaming midfielder that plays across almost like a rainbow across that goes from left centre mid to attacking midfielder to right centre mid, and that's your Curtis Jones. I said last season, it was at the game against when does Curtis play? Brighton? Was it a Brighton game? Whatever game he plays, it felt like a lower opposition, and I got really excited about him purely by how freaking far he travels both sides of the pitch. Now, part of it feels like when Thiago played in our team, Wijnaldum was so advanced because we played. Thiago is pulling the strings. He's got one person next to him, the destroyer, and then Wijnaldum just went, I'm going to go walkabout. The only thing I would say about Chamberlain is that thing seems to keep happening with Curtis. Curtis seems to be able to do that, and then sometimes it's Wijnaldum that goes up and does that. So I think the system may have evolved a little bit to support a midfielder roaming a little bit, and that could play into Chamberlain's favour if he finds himself in this side and he gets given the green light to kind of, instead of picking up the ball deep, where he's kind of useless when he picks the ball up deep, doesn't really pick a pass, thread a pass. He needs to be quick. It needs to come to him, and he needs to go, what do I do? And then shoots and scores. Origi's like that as well. If Origi thinks too long, he's hopeless. So with Chamberlain, if he can find himself in that position, he could be useful for us. But I think Pete's spot on. I think we're seeing him left wing before we're seeing him there. But if he plays midfield, I think he takes up that position, and we give Curtis Jones a bit of a rest, or Jones can play a bit deeper. Wijnaldum has a rest, or Henderson, and Chamberlain comes up the top to do that rainbow sweep, I'll call it.
We've got a few options.
Look, I think in times like this, when there is an issue squad-wise, it does give an opportunity for someone to rise. And I think what we're seeing in Curtis Jones is someone rise to the occasion and take the opportunity that's been given. I think with Curtis, with a few more games underneath his belt, I think it'll be hard to take him out of the team.
Yeah. He's got everything.
Forget the age. Forget the age thing. Don't look at that. I think look at it for what it is. I think we don't have a midfielder like him right now that is fit.
Yeah, no,
his balance is he's on his toes constantly. Players like Henderson, Wijnaldum, they're centre midfielders. They play like centre midfielders. Curtis plays like a winger, but he's in your midfield. So it's very rare. Watch him. He doesn't lose the ball. He gives it away. It's very hard to dispossess him because he's on the balls of his feet like that constantly. And he's doing this with his foot. Like a Firmino, he's constantly tapping the ball away. It's so hard to dispossess him. In this Klopp side where you need to be able to receive the ball and not lose it and keep the move going, like Pete says, it doesn't matter about his age. I agree. I think he's becoming not only just, suitable, not just important, but is it getting to a point where how many games is it going to be until it's like irreplaceable sounds really dramatic, but it literally means we cannot afford to have him out of the team. I think he's doing a great job.
It's the kind of thing that will come and kind of say, well, and I don't want this to happen, by the way, that's my disclaimer, but okay, Wijnaldum doesn't renew his contract, Wijnaldum goes. Okay, we've got Curtis Jones. That's fine. You know what I mean? That's how I'll be looking at it if we do look at it like that. If we're going to look at the positive of Wijnaldum leaving, even though I hope to God he doesn't leave, because without him this year, we'd be fucking battling with Arsenal at 15. So I do hope he does stay. But if he doesn't, that's when you kind of go, well, there's Curtis Jones. It's all good. Don't worry.
He's had great games as well. Arguably his best games have come in the Champions League against Atalanta away and then at home to Ajax where he scored that fantastic goal. And Nico Williams, those two boys from the youth team coming together to the first team. It's nice to see the products are coming together. They're working well. Klopp is integrating him into the first team. And we saw Kelleher get his chances in goals. And we had Clarkson as well against Midtjylland playing. Trying to get some stripes in, get some game time. So it's not to say we're short of players and we're running on fumes. It's just arguably you can say the players we have available aren't of high quality that we'd like at Liverpool, as George rightly said. And, if Divock Origi is it, then Divock Origi is it. And you say, all right, Divock, off you go. Come on, score us a goal, win us a game, or do whatever it is you got to do. And what was that?
Win us a corner.
He'll come on and win your corners. Hey, if those corners lead to goals, I couldn't give two shits what he does, man. And goals for us, mind you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Back to the beginning of the pod, Tottenham are coming to town. Mourinho's coming, and we know what we're going to expect. It's not going to be a flashy game. It's going to be one of those games where I can just see us now. We're going to be watching the game. We're going to be frustrated at the movement of the players because Tottenham are just standing still as statues, and Mourinho's going to tell them, don't do anything. As soon as there's the slightest hint of a dispossession or a bit of hesitation with us going forward, that's when you see Tottenham strike. And that's what worries me with the defence we have, based purely on the fitness levels at the moment and the pace available and affordable to the guys playing in the team. So that's what worries me. And I have a fear that this undefeated streak will come to an end on Thursday morning for us.
So that's your prediction. We lose.
I don't want us to. I've said it all along. I said I don't want us to, but I don't get many feelings when other teams come. Like if Man City came now to Anfield, I'd say I'd be more comfortable with us winning against Man City than I would with Tottenham coming to Anfield now. Let me just say that.
Well, I've got one for you. We're going to win 2-1 and Origi scores the winner.
I already called he's going to score the winner. Come on, man. You can't do this to me. I already called it. How's he going to score it, though?
He'll hit the post, hit him, hit the other post, come back, hit him, hit the goalkeeper, come back, hit him again, and it will cross over the line through the
like a pinball thing and just straight over. And
it'll hit his ass.
It'll be a goal line technology needed to call that goal. That's how tight it's going to be. But I mean, Spurs they fumbled a 1-0 lead against Palace, and Lloris was at fault there. And we know he's been prone to some errors. Thankfully, Alisson is back in goal, and hopefully he doesn't commit any errors. But in all saying that, it's going to be one of those games. Like I said, I can just see us yelling at the screen. I don't know. What are your takes, George?
Yeah, look, if we're going for match predictions, I think it's when we've doubted the team the most that they've actually performed. I can't remember a time where we've doubted them and they've not showed up for us. It's when we've not anticipated the opposition enough that we've underperformed. I'm talking, Aston Villa. I'm talking Fulham. I'm talking Atalanta. So me personally, I think we also forget, Chelsea had a lot of teams in there that were average in comparison to the table. And then they got a test, Everton, and they lost. Tottenham have kind of had a similar run. Look, they have beat Man United 6-1. They're but
That's
Aston Villa beat us 7-2. There's crazy things happening. When you look at the balance of it, I think Tottenham are beating the teams they should be beating. In this instance, yes, they go into I agree with Pete. I think the circumstances has them as favourites. And look, Liverpool, even when we're not favourites, even when we're favourites, we love to say we're not. It's just our juju and our jinx that we love to do. But we're the best team in the country. This Liverpool team has proved that, and I think we are too good for Tottenham. Are we gonna beat them? Is it going to be a stroll in the park? It's not going to be a stroll in the park. It's going to be difficult, but this Liverpool team knows how to do that. And Jurgen Klopp hasn't coached a starting 11. This is one thing I'll finish with saying. Jose Mourinho's coached a starting 11. Ferguson, arguable. I think he goes more towards he's coached squads. Jurgen Klopp, more than any other manager, I think it's clear from right now with the injuries he's got. Ferguson never had this injury list. Mourinho never had this injury list. With the injury list he's got, Liverpool playing the same way. Jurgen Klopp has coached a club, a community, a society of people. And no matter who comes in, they do the job for us. It's not as good as the starting 11, but this team plays the same way. So I will just say I'm not confident of like an easy win. I'm confident that Liverpool shows up, Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool shows up, and Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool performs the way that Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool should. And I think that's enough to win us the game. That's what I would say.
Quick one. Are the fans going to be there on the weekend? There are, aren't they? 2,000 fans?
2,000 of them, I think. Yep.
Well, then for me, there's already a positive there because we know what we're just 2,000 of us. You know what we can do. So I think that's massive. Having those fans there is absolutely massive for this match. And I think that the fans won't allow the boys to be slow and sloppy like have been in the past few games. So, yeah, fingers crossed that the Anfield faithful, the lucky bastards who get into the game and the ones who are, blessed to get in the 2,000, just really sing for the rest of us at home and really push on the ones that are there, that really push the players on, because at home, we're screaming our lungs out, but they can't hear us. So I hope to God they do their job.
Our neighbours can definitely hear us. In saying that, we've both played 12 games each. We're both on 7 wins, 4 draws and 1 loss each. Goal difference, they lead the pack, and we're both sitting on 25 points with a couple of other teams sitting nicely behind us. It has to be said, in the last 6 previous matches, we have beaten them. I think maybe 4 out of 6 times we've had a draw or 2 here or there. So it all bodes well, but Mourinho's coming to town. I'll just say, if we are going to lose this season, it's going to be this game here, and then that'll probably be the last time I ever say we're going to lose our winning streak for the season. It's going to be Mourinho coming to town. That's what scares me. That's what scares me. But I think that pretty much sums everything up. Lads, thank you very much for joining us on LFC Couch 2.0. If we're going to call it that, why not? See how we go.
Other things that we've done, but that's fine. We'll call it 2.0.
We'll just keep it going, man. Yeah, we've had a few iterations and a few changes. But thank you, Peter, for joining us once again. Hopefully your Allison lookalike competition comes through. And George, hopefully you're enjoying the rest of your quarantine.
Yeah, thanks, Pete.
And don't forget, for all you others listening or watching out there on YouTube, Podbean, Instagram, and also on Twitter, we are at LFC Couch, so check us out. We are the LFC Couch, the biggest Liverpool supporter podcast in the Southern Hemisphere, coming out of Sydney, Australia. Thank you very much for watching. Up the Reds, and let's hope we continue this streak of 65 undefeated at Anfield in the Premier League.